kind of like throwing me off, like, why is he doing this? But obviously I'm gonna have to get rid of this because I don't want a Hellion in the back of my base. And as you guys can see here, just pumping pure mutas, also getting some lings whenever I have excess minerals, but always remembering to get as many drones as possible. And I was actually looking for my overseer there, which I guess I kind of lost it. I don't know where it went, but as you guys can see, pump drones, pump mutas, get all your units out. This is where you have map control, and you force a Terran to be scared. And as you guys can see, he's building all these turrets. These are 100 minerals apiece. That's a lot of money, and I don't necessarily have to attack. I just have to cause my opponent fear. And here I am going to try to attack, but my opponent gets all his SCVs on the turret, so I'm gonna have to run the mutas away. But the nice thing about mutas, you don't necessarily have to do damage, you just have to use these mutas as a kind of threat. Now you can do whatever you want. You can just kind of go mass speedling, mass drone up, not too hard, but you know, go double expand, do whatever you want, because your opponent most likely is not going to push out during this crucial timing. He doesn't want to move his forces out and then, you know, have a flock of mutalisks fly in, take off all the turrets, and then he's going to lose the game. So it's very important right now to pump mutas, or, you know, go whatever you can, but keep your opponent scared. And as you guys can see, continuing to spread that creep, and I am getting a third expansion down. Now, let's talk a little bit about hotkeys. A lot of players have asked me, what kind of hotkeys do I use? As Zerg, I like to use 5 for my hatcheries, and you can, of course, group all your hatcheries on one hotkey, and then I like to put queens on 4. Why do I do this? This allows me to inject larvae using the minimap. You can just push V, and then left-click on the minimap where the hatchery is, and the nearest queen will then inject that hatchery. So it's a very useful technique. It really allows you to attack and still inject larvae at the same time, so it's very, very nice. And that's what I like to do. That's my hotkey preference, at least. 1, 2, and 3 I use for my army. I actually use 2 for mutas, and then 1 for my lings and banelings. And that's pretty much my basic hotkey setup. Now, I also want to call attention, oh great, random factory at my 4th, but you know, whatever, I'll take it out. I want to call attention to, when you guys watch these tutorial videos, watch the bottom of the screen. You guys can see that I'm not just idly sitting by and, you know, dilly-daddling around and looking at one thing. I'm constantly using my hotkeys and selecting my hatcheries to build units. I'm selecting my creep tumors to spawn more tumors, controlling my mutas, using my hatcheries, my queens. So this box at the bottom is constantly changing. I'm constantly keeping my attention span around my base and always doing things. I'm never lax. If you guys watch the center of the screen, you guys might think, you know, nothing's going on, but if you watch the bottom, that's where all that APM goes into. So anyways, here I have a great flock of mutas. I can go in and pick off these tanks. You want to, you know, test these bunkers. Obviously, they're not occupied. You can just fly over them. They're just random structures. And my opponent doesn't actually have enough Vikings to take out my mutas, so he has to keep his Vikings back where his bunkers are, which means that my mutas can then harass his factories. And I'm actually possibly going to be able to pick off a factory here, which is a huge pickup. And it looks like, yeah, I am going to be able to take the factory out. So as you guys can see, keeping my opponent scared. This goes back to the basics of keep your opponent feared of your Zerg forces. Don't allow them to move out. Keep them contained on 2 bases. And that's pretty much how you play ZBT. Also, make sure you get banelings. You know, I think I have the banelings nest down already, but around this time, you want to make sure you get banelings nest. Because you need a ton of banelings. If your opponent now transitions into mass marine, then your mutas are just gonna die. You need banelings to be able to deal with mass marines, so you do definitely want to get a bunch of banelings out. Also get those evo chambers to upgrade both the carapace and melee. Some lings are helpful as well, because lings are great against tanks and Thors. And another key component to why mutaling and baneling works against Terran is because of the new Muta magic box trick. If you guys aren't familiar with this, I'm sure you guys know when you fly mutas into Thors just do massive splash damage and they just take them down if your mutas are grouped up and clumped in one unit, one location. But if you spread your mutas out before you go into attack, and then you fly over the Thor and then press stop or hold position, the Mutalisks will retain this kind of spread out formation, and then the Thor becomes much, much weaker to Mutalisks. In fact, it's so weak, I think 20 Mutalisks can kill like 5 Thors if you spread the Mutas out, because the Thor can only shoot 1 Muta at a time. So remember, the Muta magic box trick, spread your Mutas out, and then fly over and then press stop. Don't right click attack any of the Thors or anything like that, or else they'll just clump up and die to Thors. So as you guys can see there, I don't know why my opponent built buildings out there. Maybe he ran out of building space. But now you guys can see the transition into Banelings and Lings. A ton of Mutas. Also, keep in mind, I'm keeping my economies running as strong as possible. I have a third now almost fully saturated. And of course, I have a fourth expansion up ready to receive drones at any time. Spreading the creep to connect my bases. That is extremely important. And I'm just waiting for my opponent to push out. I don't want to overcommit, even though I feel like I could win the game now. I honestly feel like I have superior forces, superior economy. I have 4 base, he has 2 base. I don't want to overcommit and, you know, fly into a bunch of bunkers and turrets and stuff. Just let my opponent push out. Eventually he'll starve himself. He's not gonna, you know, build up, although he can actually build up a pretty massive force. So I guess you don't want to wait too long, but eventually he will push out and you will be able to surround him and kill him. And when you attack, make sure to use that Mutalist magic box trick, which is, you know, extremely important to being able to stop the Thors from killing all your Mutas. So as you guys can see, spreading my drones out, getting up to Hive Tech, you want to get to Brood Lords, or possibly even Ultras. I do prefer Brood Lords if my opponent doesn't have too many Vikings. And it looks like my opponent has finally decided to move out, so he has a pretty nice mixture force. And a lot of times people will say, how do you stop this? This is a massive Terran ball. This is how you do it. Attack, fly the Mutalisks over the Thor, and then stop right over all of the Thors, as you guys see right there. And that is how you prevent the Thors from doing splash damage and just obliterating all your Mutas. And of course, you know, I had a bunch of Banelings and Lings, which kind of just flooded in and was able to take out his army. So that is a very basic, I guess, tutorial on how you can play Muta, Baneling, Ling. A lot of the strategy of this build comes down to finesse, comes down to scouting. You have to scout your opponent, and of course comes down to being able to defend when that inevitable Terran harass comes, the quad Banshee that my opponent used. And then of course using Mutalist to control the game, as you guys saw that I did in this game. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this broadcast or this tutorial video. This is how I play Zerg vs Terran almost every single game, and it's been proven to be effective. It wins at diamond level, and so hopefully you guys that are Zerg players out there, now you guys have a new trick up your sleeve. If you guys have been using Roach Hydra, which by the way, I think Hydras are horrible against Terrans, so hopefully you guys have a new trick, and as Terran, now you have a little more insight into Zerg Mutaling Baneling. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this tutorial video, and of course subscribe if you guys like what you see. Thanks a lot guys. HD, signing out. Alright guys, I actually almost forgot the post-game analysis video, so we're going to go ahead and take a look at this, which I'm not exactly sure why I couldn't pull up the match history for my actual game, but this is the match history for another game where I played another Terran player just previously, and it was pretty much the same exact game, same build order, everything, which, what the heck is, it's a bunch of Greater Spires. Okay. Apparently Greater Spire has been replaced by Drone. No, wait. Drone is actually here. I'm not quite sure what is going on here, but I guess we won't be able to analyze the post-game video after all. So I do apologize for this. This must be some kind of glitch with the new patch. But I guess I can reiterate. Basically, 14 gas, 14 pool, pump up to 21. Excuse me, 14 pool, 14 gas, 16 overlord, 21 hatchery, 2 queens, and from there on out you just basically play. You want to of course remember to pull your drones off gas, get them back on gas at 21 when you throw that hatchery down, and then of course get to layer, throw your second gas down, get to spire. It's pretty flexible after that, but the basic standard main thing is make sure you go 14 pool, 14 gas, 16 overlord, 21 hatch. I think that's a very good way to open, doesn't expose you to getting an expansion too quickly, and that's pretty much the real gist of the opener for this ZVT Mutaling Baneling build. Not going for a bunch of Greater Spires, remember that, not 7 Greater Spire, 8 Greater Spire, 9 Greater Spire. I mean, shoot, if I could have a Greater Spire here at 7 supply, I think that would make Zerg very balanced. Well, anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed this tutorial video, and what a laugh this is. But yeah, I'm not sure why. I think there might be a glitch right now because my match history isn't even showing the last game. But anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed this tutorial, and take it easy.